Okay, so we just got our sequence class working in a for loop. And at the beginning of the next lesson, I note that we do have the for loop working, but do we have a for yield loop working? Will this work if I do something like this? So I could say val y of s equals that, and then we might yield something like, oh, I don't know, x times 2, something like that. Will that work for us? So now we can come down here and let's just watch. We'll go ahead and try to run that and then watch that. And indeed, we see that that fails right away as expected over here. So this one says value map is not a member of the sequence event. So again, what that means is that you don't have a map method properly defined in the sequence class here, and therefore this code will not compile. So to get that error message to go away, what we want to do is start adding a map method over here. And now if you recall how map works, I can come down here and let's just imagine we have a list of 1, 2, and 3 that we want to call map. And we can say for each element in there, what I want to do is I times 2, and then that would be z of s equals that. So this is the way map works right there at the end. And again, inside of here, what's going on is it takes an anonymous function or a function literal, and it transforms whatever is inside the collection into some other type over here. Now that can be the same type as in this example. It's going from an int here to an int over here, but this type over here could be different. Like if I had a 2.2 or something like that, now this would be an int to a double. And what that tells us when we define the map signature over here is, again, we want to take a function and it's going to transform the A that we contain into a totally different type. So that totally different type is going to be a B. And because I'm just introducing B at this point, I want to include B right there. And then, because when this is finished running, it's going to yield a sequence of the type B. That's the return type from map. So that's going to be a sequence of B. So just to demonstrate what I mean, if that was 2.0, then when this is finished running, z of s would have the value. It would be a sequence, and it would contain it would contain 2.0, and then it would contain 4.0, and then 6.0. And so that is a sequence of double. And that's what I mean by this return type right here, is that our map method is returning this new sequence with this new type. And now all we need to do is fill in the body here. And this takes a little bit of finagling. So what I want to do is just use the map method on our existing elements. So I want to create some new elements. And this is going to be a sequence. Actually, let me start off this way and say, I want to create some new elements. And what I want to do is take these elements right here inside of our function. And you know what? I'm going to do something different here. And just to be clear that that's a private field, put that there, put that there. This is something I used to do in C programming and Java, and I still do a little bit sometimes in Scala, is to indicate that this is a private field. This is the way the Dart programming language works, if I remember right, is you start something off with an underscore to indicate that it's private. So that's what I'm going to do here and say that now I want to take that private value right there. I'm going to call map on that. And again, this is cheating a little bit, but I really don't care how the body of this is implemented at the moment. I just care about these type signatures and that we are returning the right value in the end. Now, what happens here is if I do that and then I try to create a sequence from these new elements, what's going to happen if I save that is it's going to say that what it found here was new elements, and what it requires here is something else. It required B. And what it needs there, so the first step you might think is, oh yeah, that's supposed to be a var args parameter. So I do that and save that. And now the error message becomes something else, and it says, well, I found an array buffer, but I needed some kind of sequence or array here. And the short story is you just need to convert that to a sequence like that. So I'll save that. We should see that error message go away, and indeed we do. So what I was about to show earlier was that this needed to be a seq of B, like that, if I show that type. And then we have that. And the only reason that has to be like that is because for some reason, array buffer does not work well with this var args parameter. And you actually saw that, and I'll go back to that just for a moment. If I get rid of that and that, we'll see that error message come back. So for some reason, I don't know why, array buffer doesn't work as a varargs parameter right here. So then we just need to go back and put that code in there and save that. We'll see that error message go away. And now what we should have, so I have the for yield expression there, and now that is compiling, and I just want to make sure that that is working so I can do a print line on y of s like that. And then there is our result. And I forgot to clean that code up, so I was showing that as a demonstration. Let me clean that up, save that. And I was pausing for a moment myself here because I had noticed that our sequence here contains a list of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, like that. And I was like, I don't know if that's 100% what I want, but you know what? It's not that bad because I could do a ys for each and then print line like that. And then I get what I want, which is the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 output like that. So again, I'm starting to get caught up in the fact that I'm doing this hack here, and I really don't want to get caught up in that. Again, what I'm trying to show is that when you implement for each, you can start creating for loops in this area here. And then once you want to create a for yield expression here, you need to create a map method up here to support that. And that's what I have showed so far. So we are seeing that result right here. And let me just go back to the book and see if there's anything else I want to do here. One thing is in Scala 2, you had to use this syntax right here. So you saw up here where I had the sequence of an A-B map, and then there's a colon. That syntax went away in Scala 3. So now we just use this syntax that's shown right there. So that's nice. It's nice user-friendly change for us right there. So that's what I took the time to explain over here, and now I don't have to explain that anymore. Then we have our entire sequence class, and we have for yield right there. I make a point here that the for yield expression works solely because of the map method. So what I mean by that is if I comment this out and save that, we will see that this works except for that part right there, of course. So now if I go back to print line of y of s like that and save that, we'll see that this works right here. So again, that point was just that for and yield right here works only because of the map, and it does not require for each. But if you want a for loop, which I was doing earlier, let's go back and do that again for this purpose. So then for the for loop, which is a for and do, what we want to do is print line each x like that. And now we see that error value for each is not working. So comment that. Remove that comment, and then we see that that works here, and then the other one works right there. So clean that up. Let's leave that like that. And I believe I'm done for right now in getting that working. And I do note here, if you look at the title of this lesson, this gets the sequence type to work as a single generator in a for expression. And what happens now is if I try to get that to work with multiple generators up here, something like this, I could say, oh, I don't know. Am I using Y? I am using there. How about A in something like this, sequence of A, B. That's fine, just like that. Now I save that. Now we're going to see the error message for the next lesson is that flat map is not a member sequence. So that's what we're going to do in our next video is implement flat map so we can have multiple generators working just like that.